The Awakening. The deep space vessel Artemis hung silently against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars, its massive hibernation chambers slowly coming to life after 2 centuries of darkness. Captain Sarah Chen's consciousness emerged gradually, like a swimmer rising from the depths of an endless ocean. The revival process had changed since their escape from Earth. It had to, after what they'd learned about long-term cryogenic adaptation. The medical bay's soft blue light pulsed in rhythm with her awakening heartbeat. Sarah's eyes adjusted to the dim illumination, taking in the sophisticated monitoring equipment surrounding her pod. The distant hum of the ship's systems felt different somehow, more alive than she remembered from when they first fled Earth's destruction. Revival sequence complete, Captain Chen, the ship's AI announced, its voice carrying an undertone of what might have been concern. However, I must inform you of significant physiological changes detected during hibernation. Sarah sat up slowly, her muscles remembering their purpose with surprising ease. Elaborate, Artemis, she commanded, noting how her voice seemed to resonate differently in her throat. Your genetic structure has undergone the anticipated evolutionary adaptation we theorized might occur during extended cryosleep. The process appears to have been accelerated by the quantum field modifications we implemented before departure. The AI paused, displaying holographic data streams that showed complex genetic markers. You and the other colonists have developed capabilities we only hypothesized might be possible. Sarah stood, her movements fluid and precise. She felt different, lighter, more aware. The room's temperature, the subtle variations in air pressure, the electromagnetic fields running through the ship's systems. She could sense them all with crystal clarity. How many others are awake? She asked, moving to the observation window. Their location at the edge of the Carina Nebula provided a stunning view of swirling cosmic gases and newborn stars. You are the first, Captain. The revival sequence is proceeding as planned, with command staff scheduled to awaken over the next 6 hours. The remaining 10,000 colonists will follow over the next week. Sarah nodded, remembering the day they'd launched the flotilla of sleeper ships. The Nexeri Empire had declared humanity too dangerous to exist in their perfect galactic society, their swift and brutal attack leaving Earth a scorched ruin. But they'd missed the emergency exodus, too confident in their victory to look for survivors. Show me the latest long-range scans, Sarah ordered, approaching the command console. The holographic display expanded, revealing the current state of known space. The Nexeri Empire had changed during humanity's absence. Their territory had expanded, but Sarah noticed signs of internal strain in their patrol patterns and resource distribution. A gentle chime announced another revival in progress. Dr. James Morrison, the project's lead geneticist, would be awakening in the adjacent chamber. They'd been close friends before the hibernation, united by their commitment to humanity's survival and their radical theory about guided evolution during cryosleep. James is going to be insufferably pleased with himself when he sees these results, Sarah muttered, studying her own genetic readouts. The changes were profound but purposeful: enhanced cellular regeneration, improved neural processing, and something else she couldn't quite identify. The door slid open, and James stumbled in, his dark skin glistening with revival fluid. Sarah, please tell me it worked. Please tell me we didn't sleep for 2 centuries just to wake up as regular old humans. Sarah smiled, extending her hand toward a cup on the far side of the room. The cup trembled, then slowly lifted into the air, floating gracefully toward her. I'd say it worked better than we hoped, old friend. James's eyes widened, his scientific mind already racing with possibilities. Telekinetic manipulation. But how stable is it? Are there any signs of neural strain? We need to run full diagnostics on everyone as they wake up. Already on it, Sarah replied, setting the cup down gently. But this isn't just about our new abilities, James. We need to discuss our next steps carefully. The galaxy thinks humanity is extinct. We have the element of surprise, but we need to use it wisely. Through the observation window, distant stars beckoned. Humanity had hidden long enough, the vault in ways their would-be executioners never imagined possible. But Sarah knew their return couldn't be about revenge. It had to be about something more. "Artemis," she called out, "begin composing a message to be broadcast on all frequencies once the command staff is awake. The galaxy should know that humanity isn't extinct. We're change, we're stronger, and we're ready to take our place among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as equals who refuse to be dismissed or destroyed." James placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch conveying understanding of the weight of the moment. "They thought they were eliminating a threat," he said softly. "Instead, they forced us to become something new, something more." Sarah watched as another sleeper ship emerged from the nebula's cover, its systems beginning the revival sequence for its precious cargo of survivors. "We're not the humanity they tried to destroy," she agreed. "We're what humanity needed to become to survive. Now we just have to prove we can be better than those who judged us unworthy of existence." The stars seemed to pulse with possibility as more of the flotilla emerged from hiding. Humanity's long night was ending, and a new dawn awaited, one that would reshape the galaxy in ways no one, not even the mighty Nexeri Empire, could have predicted. First Contact Redux. The Galactic Assembly Station hung like a jeweled pendant against the velvet black of space, its crystalline spires catching starlight in prismatic arrays. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the Artemis, watching as representatives from 17 species scrambled to prepare for humanity's unexpected arrival. Their broadcast announcing their survival had sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. "They've assigned us Docking Bay 7, Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez reported, her newly enhanced senses allowing her to process the incoming data streams without traditional interfaces. Like all the awakened humans, she had emerged from cryosleep change, adapted. The Nexeri delegation is demanding we submit to quarantine protocols." Sarah's lips curved in a slight smile. "Send them our medical data. Let them see exactly what they're dealing with." She turned to Dr. Morrison, who was reviewing final genetic stability reports. "Ready to make history again, James?" He nodded, his dark eyes reflecting the station's lights. "They're going to be fascinated and terrified in equal measure. Our evolution wasn't just physical. We've become something their sciences claimed was impossible." The Artemis glided into its assigned berth with precise grace, its systems interfacing seamlessly with the station through methods that would have been impossible for the old humanity. Sarah felt the subtle vibrations through the deck plates, her enhanced awareness painting a detailed picture of their surroundings. The welcoming committee was a carefully chosen mix of species. Sarah recognized the towering Nexeri representative by their distinctive crystalline exoskeleton. Ambassador Vextel, according to their diplomatic briefings. Beside them stood representatives from the Meridian Collective, the Silicum Consciousness, and various other major powers. "Remember," Sarah broadcast to her crew through their newly developed neural network, "we're here to establish dialogue, not dominance. Let them see what we've become, but don't let them fear what we might do." The airlock cycled, and Sarah led her delegation forward. She'd chosen her team carefully. Dr. Morrison for his scientific expertise, Lieutenant Rodriguez for her tactical insight, and Dr. Elena Petrov, their xenoanthropologist who'd spent their long sleep studying and categorizing changes in galactic culture. Ambassador Vextel stepped forward, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that Sarah's enhanced perception recognized as a subtle form of communication. "Captain Chen," they said, their translator struggling to maintain neutral tones, "your species was believed extinct. The Empire's records clearly show." "The Empire's records," Sarah interrupted smoothly, "are 2 centuries out of date. Humanity survived. We adapted. We evolved." She gestured to her team. "We're here to reestablish diplomatic relations with the galactic community." The Silicum Consciousness representative, a shifting mass of intelligent nanites in roughly humanoid form, moved closer. "We detect significant deviations from baseline human genetic structure. Explanation required." Dr. Morrison stepped forward, his movements deliberately measured. When faced with extinction, humanity chose transformation. The quantum fields generated by our cryogenic systems, combined with carefully engineered retroviruses, allowed us to guide our own evolution during our long sleep. Impossible, Vextel declared, their crystalline structure vibrating with agitation. Such directed evolution violates fundamental biological laws. Sarah raised her hand, and a gentle telekinetic field lifted several nearby objects, including the personal devices of various delegates, into a complex orbital dance. Many things previously thought impossible are now simply part of who we are. The assembled diplomats recoiled, their various biological and artificial systems registering shock and alarm. The Meridian Collective Representative, a being of pure energy contained within an elaborate mechanical shell, spoke next. Such abilities, they could destabilize the entire balance of power. Or, Alina Petrov interjected, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of cultural analysis, they could help us forge a new balance, one based on understanding rather than fear. Sarah nodded, letting the objects return to their places with precise control. We didn't come back to settle old scores. Humanity has evolved beyond the need for revenge. We want to help build a galaxy where no species needs to fear extinction at the hands of another. The diplomatic chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Through her enhanced perception, Sarah could sense the rapid communications passing between the representatives and their governments. Fear, curiosity, and calculation mixed in equal measure. The Nexari Empire, Vextel finally said, their tone modulated carefully, would be interested in studying these evolutionary advances. For purely scientific purposes, of course. Of course, Sarah replied diplomatically, while sharing a knowing look with her team. Through their neural link, she could sense their collective amusement. The empire that had tried to destroy them now wanted to understand them, perhaps even replicate their transformation. All of our research will be shared, Dr. Morrison added, with appropriate safeguards. Humanity's evolution wasn't just physical. We've learned the importance of responsible advancement. As the initial meetings progressed, Sarah maintained her calm exterior while processing the subtle currents of power shifting through the station. The galaxy was changing, adjusting to humanity's unexpected return. But beneath the diplomatic niceties and scientific curiosity, she could sense deeper currents of anxiety. The Nexari Empire, once confident in their supremacy, now faced a humanity they couldn't simply dismiss or destroy. Other species saw opportunities in this disruption of the status quo. And somewhere in the station, Sarah sensed others watching. Species who had their own reasons to fear or welcome humanity's return. The real challenge, she shared through the neural link with her team, isn't proving what we've become. It's proving we can be trusted with what we are now. The future of human-galactic relations would depend on the decisions made in the coming days. Sarah Chen intended to ensure the future would be one of cooperation rather than conflict, but she hadn't forgotten the lessons of the past. Humanity would never again be vulnerable to extinction. They had evolved too far, come too far, to let that happen again. The Silent Revolution. 3 months after humanity's return to galactic society, the changes were already impossible to ignore. The massive trading hub of Station Nexus 9 had become ground zero for what some were calling the human revolution. Captain Sarah Chen walked through its sprawling marketplace, her enhanced senses taking in the transformation happening around her. Where once the various species had kept to their strictly segregated sectors, now the boundaries were blurring. A group of silicon consciousness units were engaged in animated discussion with organic beings, their neural interfaces adapted from human designs allowing for deeper understanding. Nearby, a meridian energy being shared a meal with a crystalline Nexari, using modified human-inspired containment fields to interact on a physical level that would have been impossible before. Fascinating how quickly they're adapting our innovations, Dr. Alina Petrov commented, falling into step beside Sarah. The xenoanthropologist's eyes gleamed with professional excitement. They're not just copying our technology, they're understanding the philosophy behind it. Sarah nodded, watching as a young Nexeri child used a crude form of telekinesis to play with hovering toys. The ability had manifested spontaneously after exposure to human genetic patterns, causing both excitement and alarm throughout the Empire. Maybe that's what they feared all along, she mused. Not that we'd destroy them, but that we'd change them. Their path took them to the station's central council chamber, where James Morrison was presenting the latest findings on cross-species adaptation. The chamber was packed, representatives from every major civilization hanging on his words. The quantum resonance patterns we developed during our long sleep aren't just compatible with other species, James explained, his holographic displays showing complex genetic structures. They're catalyzing dormant potential that existed all along. We didn't just evolve ourselves. We found a key that unlocks universal biological advancement. Through the neural network, Sarah sensed the ripple of excitement and anxiety that passed through her human colleagues stationed around the room. Lieutenant Rodriguez, monitoring security, sent a warning pulse. The Nexeri representatives were broadcasting encrypted messages at an unusual rate. Questions are being raised in the Empire's inner chambers, Ambassador Vextel announced, their crystalline form vibrating with barely contained emotion. These changes spreading through our population. Some call them contamination, others salvation. The Empire's unity is at risk. Sarah stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Change is never easy, Ambassador. But look around you. For the first time in galactic history, species aren't just coexisting. They're truly understanding each other. The barriers we thought were fixed are falling. That's precisely what concerns us, a silicon consciousness representative interjected, their nanite form shifting nervously. Our models cannot predict where these changes will lead. The stability of galactic civilization was built on isolation and fear, Elena interrupted, her voice firm. We've spent 3 months studying your histories. Every major species was shepherded into development patterns the Empire deemed safe and controllable. But humanity escaped that pattern. And now we're showing you all what's possible when artificial limitations are removed. The chamber erupted in discussion, hundreds of voices mixing with electronic communications and empathic broadcasts. Sarah stood calm at the center of the storm, her enhanced mind processing every argument, every fear, every hope being expressed. Through it all, she noticed a subtle shift. The younger representatives, regardless of species, were overwhelmingly fascinated by the possibilities. It was the established power structures that feared the change, and with good reason. Their authority had been built on maintaining the old boundaries. We're receiving reports from across the galaxy, James announced, his eyes scanning incoming data. Spontaneous manifestations of abilities, similar to ours, are appearing in populations that have had sustained contact with humans. It's not just the Nexeri anymore. It's spreading to every species capable of quantum cellular resonance. Sarah felt a moment of vertigo as she realized the true scale of what they'd initiated. Humanity hadn't just evolved themselves. They'd become a catalyst for galactic evolution. The boundaries between species were dissolving not through conquest or force, but through shared growth and understanding. Your empire tried to destroy us because you feared we would disrupt your order, Sarah addressed Vextel directly. You were right, but not in the way you imagined. We're not destroying the old order through violence. We're transcending it through transformation. A young Nexeri scientist pushed forward, their crystalline form pulsing with excitement. The changes in our youth, they're not random mutations. Our studies suggest they're expressions of potential that was always there, locked away by our own biological and social constraints. Humanity didn't infect us with something foreign. They showed us how to unlock ourselves. The silicon consciousness representatives buzzed with rapid calculations. Our projections suggest this process, once begun, cannot be reversed without galaxy-wide genetic regression. The question becomes, do we embrace this evolution or attempt to contain it? Sarah shared a knowing look with her team. The same question had faced humanity during their long sleep, accept change, or stagnate. They'd chosen to leap into the unknown, to become something new. Now the galaxy faced the same choice. We offer our guidance to any species willing to explore these changes safely and ethically, Sarah announced. We've learned how to navigate the transformation process, how to maintain stability while embracing growth. But we won't force our path on anyone. Each species must choose its own future. As the chamber descended into intense debate, Sarah received a private communication from the Artemis. More sleeper ships have been located, hiding in distant nebulae and asteroid fields. Soon, humanity's numbers would grow again, not as returning conquerors, but as teachers and guides for a galaxy on the brink of unprecedented change. The silent revolution had begun, not with weapons or wars, but with the simple act of showing the galaxy's species their own untapped potential. The real question now was, how would the old power structures react when they realized their control was slipping away not through violence, but through transformation? Breaking point. The emergency alert echoed through Station Nexus 9's corridors, its harsh tone cutting through the usual hum of commerce and conversation. Captain Sarah Chen felt the shift in the station's energy before the actual announcement came, the subtle vibrations of fear and anticipation rippling through both organic and synthetic populations. Nexari warships detected approaching from multiple vectors, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported through their neural link. 17 capital ships, including the Imperial flagship Eternal Crystal. They're moving into blockade formation. Sarah stood at the station's primary observation dome, watching as the crystalline ships took position. Their formation was beautiful in its geometric precision and absolutely effective at cutting off all escape routes. Through the station's sensors, she could detect the energy signatures of weapons powering up. They're not here to negotiate, James Morrison observed, joining her at the window. His enhanced perception picked up the same readings she did. The Imperial Council must have decided we're too dangerous to allow free movement through their territory. Alert our ships, Sarah commanded through the neural network, but tell them to hold position. We're not starting a war today. She turned as Ambassador Vextel entered the chamber, flanked by heavily armed guards. The ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with complicated patterns, stress, fear, and something that might have been regret. Captain Chen, Vextel announced formally, by order of the Imperial Council, all human vessels are to submit to immediate quarantine. The spread of unauthorized genetic modifications must be contained. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Unauthorized. The changes happening across the galaxy are natural expressions of evolutionary potential. You can't quarantine an idea, Ambassador, or hope. The Empire has maintained peace for 10,000 years by controlling the development of all species, Vextel countered. What you call evolution, we call chaos. Already, our youth question traditions that have stood for millennia. The Silicon consciousness reports unprecedented deviations in their base code. Even the meridians show signs of transformation we cannot predict or control. Through the station's communications network, Sarah could sense the rising tension. Various species were choosing sides, not just between humans and Nexari, but between embracing change and clinging to the old order. The station itself seemed to pulse with the energy of impending conflict. Your empire tried to destroy us once, Sarah said quietly, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. You failed. We survived, we evolved, and we came back not seeking revenge, but offering understanding. And now you prove that in 2 centuries, you've learned nothing. The station's alerts blared again as more ships appeared. But these weren't Nexari vessels. Ships from the Silicon consciousness dropped out of quantum space, their sleek forms taking position between the human vessels and the Imperial fleet. They were followed by meridian spheres of pure energy, their presence distorting space itself. The Empire does not stand alone in its concerns, Vextel said, but Sarah could hear the uncertainty in their voice. These changes must be contained before. They were interrupted by a commotion at the chamber's entrance. A group of young Nexari burst in, their crystalline forms glowing with newly manifested abilities. Leading them was the young scientist who had spoken in defense of change during the earlier council session. "We won't let you stop this," the young Nexari declared, their form resonating with determination. "For the first time, we can truly understand other species, not just communicate, but share thoughts, feelings, experiences. We're becoming something greater than the Empire ever imagined." Sarah felt a surge of pride and hope. This was what humanity had really returned to offer, not just physical evolution, but the breaking down of barriers between all sapient beings. Through their neural network, she could sense similar scenes playing out across the galaxy as more species embraced their awakening potential. The chamber's energy shifted as more representatives arrived. Silicon consciousness units merging with organic minds in ways previously thought impossible, meridians sharing their energy forms with physical beings, creating new forms of hybrid consciousness. The boundaries between species were dissolving not through force, but through shared understanding. "Look around you," Sarah addressed Vex telephone. "Your ships can blockade this station. You can try to quarantine our vessels. But you can't stop what's already begun. The barriers you built to keep species separate are falling, and no force in the galaxy can put them back up." Through the station's sensors, Sarah detected more ships arriving. Vessels from dozens of species, all transformed by contact with humanity's evolutionary catalyst. They took position around the station, not in hostile formation, but in a demonstration of unity that transcended old alliances. "The Imperial Council demands compliance," Vextel insisted, but their voice wavered. The guards beside them shifted uncomfortably, their own crystalline forms showing signs of the changes they were ordered to prevent. "No," Sarah replied simply. "The time for demands is over. This is a moment of choice, not just for humanity or the Empire, but for all sapient life in the galaxy. We can embrace transformation together, or we can cling to artificial boundaries until they shatter under their own weight." The standoff stretched taut as space itself seemed to hold its breath. In that moment of tension, Sarah felt something new. A resonance between all the gathered species, a harmony of consciousness that transcended physical form. The very thing the Empire had feared was becoming reality, not as a weapon or a threat, but as an invitation to something greater. The choice now lay with the Empire: fire on their own transformed youth, their allies, and the combined fleet of evolved species, or accept that the galaxy was entering a new phase of existence. As Sarah watched the Imperial ships through the observation dome, she knew that whatever happened next would determine not just humanity's future, but the course of galactic civilization itself. New Dawn. The Imperial flagship Eternal Crystal hung motionless in space, its crystalline surface reflecting the light of 1,000 ships surrounding Station Nexus 9. Inside the station's grand chamber, time seemed suspended as Ambassador Vextel received the Imperial Council's final transmission. Sarah Chen watched as the ambassador's form shifted through complex patterns of light and shadow, reflecting their internal struggle. "The Council demands one last audience," Vextel announced, their voice carrying an unexpected note of defiance. "Not with humans alone, but with representatives of all transformed species. They wish to understand." Sarah shared a knowing look with James Morrison. Through their neural network, they could sense the shift in the galaxy's consciousness, not just individual species evolving, but the very fabric of civilization transforming into something new. The barriers between minds, between forms of life, were becoming more permeable with each passing moment. "We accept," Sarah replied, "but not in the Imperial Chamber. Here, on Nexus 9, where all species meet as equals." The next hours were a blur of preparation as representatives from across the galaxy gathered. The station's central chamber, originally designed for traditional diplomatic meetings, had been transformed by the combined abilities of multiple species. Silicon consciousness units created quantum interfaces that allowed all forms of life to communicate directly. Meridian energy beings established fields that let physical and non-physical entities share the same space. The Imperial Council arrived in their traditional crystalline forms, but Sarah could sense their shock at the scene before them. Where once there had been careful separation between species, now there was fluid interaction. Young Nexari merged consciousness with silicon entities, their combined thoughts creating patterns of light and meaning in the air. Meridian energy flowed through organic bodies, creating temporary symbiotic forms that demonstrated the potential for complete understanding between different forms of life. "What have you done to our galaxy?" the Imperial High Chancellor demanded, their form rigid with tension. "We haven't done anything to it," Sarah responded, stepping forward. "We've simply shown everyone what was possible all along. Your empire maintained peace through separation and control. We're offering something different, peace through understanding and shared evolution." Dr. Elena Petrov moved to Sarah's side, her consciousness now partially merged with a silicon intelligence, demonstrating the very transformation they were discussing. "For millennia, you guided species along predetermined paths, ensuring no one could threaten your dominion. But true stability doesn't come from control. It comes from growth." The chamber hummed with energy as more transformed beings arrived. Through their shared consciousness, Sarah could feel the story of humanity's return spreading across the galaxy. Not as a tale of revenge against the empire that had tried to destroy them, but as a story of transcendence, of finding strength not in isolation, but in connection. "Your own people are changing," James added, gesturing to the young Nexari, who now demonstrated abilities that matched or exceeded their elders. "You can either guide that transformation or be left behind by it. The choice has always been yours." The High Chancellor's crystalline form shifted, revealing patterns that the old translation systems wouldn't have recognized. But the new, evolved consciousness of the gathered species understood perfectly: fear, wonder, and a deep ancient tiredness. "We built the empire to protect order," the Chancellor said, "to prevent the chaos that nearly destroyed our ancestors. How can you assure us this transformation won't lead to destruction?" Sarah smiled, and with a thought, she opened her consciousness fully to the gathered assembly. Every being in the chamber, from the youngest Nexari to the oldest Imperial Council member, could feel the truth of humanity's journey: the pain of near extinction, the long sleep, and the choice to become something new. "Because we're not transforming into separate, more powerful species," she explained. "We're transforming into something connected. When you can truly feel another's thoughts, share their experiences, understand their fears and hopes as your own, conflict becomes as unthinkable as fighting your own body." Through the neural network, Sarah sensed Lieutenant Rodriguez's alert. More ships were arriving from across the galaxy. But these weren't coming for war. They were coming to witness, to learn, to join the transformation that was sweeping through civilized space. "The empire as you knew it is already changing," Sarah continued. "But you don't have to fade away. You can be part of guiding this transformation, ensuring it happens safely and wisely. Your experience, your wisdom, they're still valuable, just not as tools of control." The High Chancellor was silent for a long moment, their crystalline form processing possibilities that would have been unthinkable days before. Finally, they spoke, their words resonating through both traditional language and the new, shared consciousness of the transformed galaxy. Perhaps this is the true destiny the Empire was meant to guide us toward. Not eternal stagnation, but eternal growth." The tension in the chamber dissolved into something new, not just relief, but a sense of possibility that rippled through the assembled beings like a wave of light. Sarah felt humanity's role shifting. They had returned not as conquerors or victims, but as catalysts for a transformation that would reshape the very meaning of civilization. Through the station's windows, the combined fleet of transformed species hung against the backdrop of stars, no longer divided by species or allegiance, but united in the greatest adventure their galaxy had ever known. The boundaries between forms of life were dissolving, replaced by a web of shared consciousness and purpose that promised to take them all to heights they had never imagined. Humanity had survived extinction, not to exact revenge, but to show the galaxy a new way forward. As Sarah watched the Imperial Council begin to merge their consciousness with the transformed beings around them, she knew that this was just the beginning. The real journey, the exploration of what connected consciousness could achieve, was just beginning. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if responding to the dawning of a new age. An age where the question was no longer what made species different, but what they could become together. The silent revolution was complete, and the galaxy would never be the same.